The second year,
Yeah.
this person's so smart.
Yeah.
He's so smart and poor.
Yeah. Right.
We've got one in the last.
No, we should do one. We got to do one for Nashim. All right. Good morning, everybody. Rami's in charge. Rami's in charge of coordinating. He doesn't have to host it, but he has to charge of coordinating. All right. So yesterday we started a brisa on the bottom of Ayin Dalet base. We got to the top of Ayin Hay. Today's Daf Ayin Hay, and we were talking about. We had three different opinions regarding passing a woman. When they say passing, means for truma, she can't marry a Kohen. Yeah, we're starting the Zikin next week. Next week, and more than halfway. So we had different opinions. A is straightforward that passes it. Someone says no, only if you can't marry the daughter. That was then there was another shita of that if it passes the zera from them. Now, so that was that. So we left off. We did one nafkamina. We learned from the Kohen Gadol, right? How to learn that, and now the Gemara has another one. Is it Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? Is that where we left off? Does that make sense? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer? Yeah. All right. So we're around 8-9 lines from the top of Ayin Hay. Yeah, Ayin Hay. We chazer in the car. So Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Kol she'ata noisei bito, ata noisei manasa. If you're able to go ahead, sure, thank you. If you're able to go ahead and marry, right, the daughter, right, then you can go ahead and marry the almana. In other words, if there's a certain woman that you're allowed to go ahead and marry your daughter, then you can go ahead and marry her, and marry her if, in other words, the bia does not pass her. Well, assume too, it's talking about v'choshiata naisei bita, but if you can't go ahead and marry your daughter, then iyata naisei manasa. Then you wouldn't be able to go ahead and marry her if she became widow. So my ika ben Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Gamliel. So what's the difference between Rabbi Yosef and Gamliel? One says if you passel, right, if you could marry the daughter, and the other one says Rabbi Yosef says kol shazara pasel. So what does it mean? So Amar Ula ger amoni moavi kebenayo. Right? Ger Amoni Moavi is an afmin. No, Shneim lo lamdu el mikohen gadol mana. Both of them actually learn also from a kohen gadol mana. Rabbi Yossi saver ki kohen gadol like an amana. Ki kohen gadol be amana. Ma kohen gadol be amana shezara pasel. A kohen gadol marries an amana, so their child is pasel zachol. Pasel akol zara. Right, and therefore anybody that comes to him will be pasel. So therefore pasel. Therefore it will pasel her. However, Rabbi Shimon says, but no, he learns from a kohen gadol be amana. Ma kohen gadol be almana shekol, right? That's a key word. Shekol zara pasel. All of her descendants, i.e., male or female, anyone comes in a union will be pasel. Avkol shekol zara pasel. Afil nekevos, even the females. Leafuki to exclude ger amoni moabi. To exclude a person who converted from Ammon or Moab, the nekevos havu kasheros lavobika, because their nekevos would be able to enter into the congregation. So therefore, since not all of their descendants, right, an Ammoni, right, so therefore an Ammoni, if he has a child, right, if it's a female, she would be mutter b'kahal. So therefore, the ger Ammoni's bia with the Bas Yisrael does not passel her from truma. The Ramar Ammoni v'lo Moabis, Moabi v'lo Moabis, because there's Ridarshan Ammoni v'lo Ammonis and Moabi v'lo Moabis. Fine. We are 1, 2, 3, third last skinny line. Amar Rav Chisda.
A ger Ammoni.
According to this, we had machlokes there. According to Rabbi Gamliel, who basically is the most makil, he says the bia of a ger Ammoni, right, with the Bas Yisrael does not pass over from Shum.
Because the kedusha would not be chal.
No, kedusha would be chal, right? He's a ger, right? But the what's it called? The not all the children would be puzzle. In other words, if there was a male, then that continues the ger Ammoni, right? But if it's a female, Ammonis is mutter, not an Ammoni. So therefore, she would be mutter. So since there's a possibility of children being mutter, Therefore, the mother is not puzzled from the bia. In other words, let's say he married her and then he died and she was widowed, right? A widow can marry a regular Kohen, so she would be mutter to the Kohen and partake of Truma. So Amarav Chita Kol Ma'idin Ba'almanas Isa. So Almanas Isa is a case like this, a case of Sumas. So we're not really going to delve into it over there, but Pashtus is like this. So a woman was married to a man. So she, now remember, Isa means dough, right? Dough is a mixture, right? So a woman is married to a man. He wants to go ahead and divorce her. He throws her a get. Now, we're not sure if the get is closer to her or closer to him. If it's closer to her, therefore it's in her rishus, it's like he gave it to her, and therefore she's divorced. If it's closer to him, it's still ruling his property. He never gave it over to her. And right at that point, the guy dies. So we're unsure if she is widowed or divorced, right? If she goes ahead and marries somebody, right, and marries a Kohen, so if she was widowed, that's fine. The child is a Kohen. It knows their child for that unit to be a Kohen. If she was divorced, then her child would be a Chalal. So this guy is basically a Safek Chalal. All right. So the child is Safek Chalal. He marries a woman, then he dies. She is called, since he's a Safek Chalal, he's like a mixture, right? The Safek, a doubt, which is like Isa, a mixture of dough, right? Doubt. So therefore, Almanas Isa is a woman who marries this guy who's a Safek Chalal, and he died. So if a woman marries a Chalal, right, then it would passel her. But now she only married a Safek Chalal. So now that's the case we're talking about. That if she goes ahead and she marries this guy, so she is pasal kuna. So man mekel. So now everyone agrees that it's pasal. She can't go ahead and marry him. So man mekel bakani tonight. Who was the mekel of the three shittas we brought in the previous bride? So that was Rav Shimon Gamliel. The Kama Rav Shimon says kol shiata noisei bito. If you can go ahead and marry the daughter, ata noisei amnasa, you can go ahead and marry the almana. But if you can't go ahead and marry the daughter from a union, if the husband dies of that union, you wouldn't be able to go ahead and take her. Lemayute to exclude my, lemayute amanas isa, shepasul kahuna. That over there, it comes to exclude who? In other words, who does that not include? In other words, whose child could you not marry? It would be amanas isa, and amanas isa would be usher. It would be pasul kahuna. And lafuki medahani tonight, actually to exclude these tonight. The tonight we learn in the Mishnah. Hey, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira, amanas isa, shekashera lakuna. That the amanas isa is kasher lakuna. So my timer, what's the reason? Have a sveik sveika. The sveik sveika lukul. It's a sveik sveika. Now it's not necessarily a sveik sveika in the normal sveik sveika. So a normal sveik sveika is you have a suffix, yes or no, and even if you say yes, or actually the other way around, even if you say no, there could be two yes. So that's why I said it's not the typical sveik sveika, which is one suffix based upon the other, as I was explaining. If yes and no, and even on the side to say no, there's still a side, there's another suffix in there to say yes or no, right? Over here, what it really means is the suffix that was created was not the suffix created with her husband that she became widowed from. Rather, the suffix was created by her mother-in-law, right, when she was in her first marriage, whether she was divorced or widowed. So therefore, since it wasn't her suffix, it was the suffix of her husband one generation up. Therefore, there was a suffix. The suffix originated not from her husband, but from the previous, right, from the previous generation. And therefore, since it's not direct, we would say lakula in that case, and therefore it would not passel her lakuna.
Who were you talking about just now? The daughter?
Amanas Isa, yeah, that was the case I explained before, right? And there's a suffix divorced, suffix widowed,
right? Okay,
and then
so that's
that woman. So that's where the suffix is. So then,
yeah, two suffix.
no.
Just
There's one suffix, but it's a generation one.
The lady, but the suffix from the mother.
Right. In other words,
Not sure if they.
the child is a suffix chola, but the child, Tosfos doesn't like this. A lot of people don't like this. Is the Gemara in what's it called? Gemara Ksubis, because it's not a typical sveik, right? As we explained earlier, right? But what it means is it's not a suffix that it's a sveik. Even if you say this, even this, no. What it really means is that the suffix was created not by her husband who died. The suffix was created because of what his mother's actions were, because she was suffix widowed, suffix divorced, then married a Kohen, and then he was the product of that marriage. So therefore, since the suffix was done there by the throwing of the get, right? So therefore, this is called a sveka. In other words, it's a far off suffix that would result in a kula, according to this. Fine. Two dots. So vade mutter, we say over here in the case of a mamzer, vade. This is the Shita Rebbe Eliezer. That a vade mamzer is mutter, but you got an issue. You can't really have a shtuki and a mamzer because one is definitely a mamzer, and the shtuki we just don't know is he a mamzer or not. There's shtukis, right? Can't have two men, right? So one is so only in the case of you both know they're both mamzer, then that could be okay. But something is not good. And Amarav Yudamarav Halach Rebbe Eliezer, like Rebbe Eliezer or Rebbe Elazar, who says that doubtful ones are not able to go ahead and marry, but a vadai mamzer is able to go ahead and marry a vadai mamzer. And Kiamise Kamei the Shmuel said before the Shmuel. So Amarli Hillel. I understand Hillel Shayna Asar Yuchsin a little Babel. Hillel said there are 10 different Yuchlis, right, departments of Yuchlis that came from Babel. But Kula Mutar Leva Yuzebazeh. And we said over there at the end of that Mishnah, the first Mishnah of Asar Yuchsin, that a shtuki and baduki can go ahead and a sufi and a shtuki can go ahead and marry a mamzer, right? They're allowed to go ahead and marry one another. So a sufi means someone who was gathered from the shuk, and we don't know who I believe we don't know who the father is. And shtuki is we don't know who the father or the mother is. But either way, it's a suffix mamzer or an opposite, right? Yeah. Shtukis, we don't know the father. Shtukis, we don't know the father. The sufi is gathered from the shuk. We don't know too, right? All right, and now it says shtuki is the beduki, right? So that was a nickname. That's the Abishal said at the end of the Mishnah. But the point is, it's a suffix mamzer. So our Mishnah said a suffix mamzer could marry a mamzer. Rebbe Eliezer had later on taught the next Mishnah that only a vadai mamzer can marry a mamzeris, right? But if someone's a suffix, then it turns out since a suffix, he might not be a mamzer. So we can't allow a person who's a suffix to marry an actual mamzer. Only if he knows someone's a mamzeris and if someone's a mamzer, they can go ahead and get married. Otherwise, we don't want sveikas to go ahead and get married. So he said this to Shmuel. So he said, Shmuel says, he said, sorry, you know, blah, blah. You see the halakha like Rebbe Elazar. So the Gemara says, so Shmuel argued, he says, no, Sveikos should be mutter. Now, the Rabbi Shmuel, the Shmuel, he actually acts a contradiction, both Rav and Shmuel. Ditamar, we learn, Arusa Sheibra. You have an Arusa, a woman who is betrothed, basically an Eishes Ish, right? She's betrothed to a man, doesn't live with him yet, and she's pregnant, right? So Rav Omar Havlad Mamzer. Rav says the Vlad is a Mamzer. Ushmul Omar Havlad Shtuki. We don't know, right? The Vlad's a Shtuki, Suffolk. And Rav says Rav says Vadi Mamzer.
It could be her arus.
Right, and which would be okay, or it could be any other man, which would be not okay. So Rav Omar Havlad Mamzer Mutar Ramzeris. Rav says to the point he's a Mamzer, and therefore Mutar Ramzeris.
Can I ask them?
Huh?
Can I ask them?
So the case of the earlier, right? The Gemara over there in the Ksubas, right? Is it that menace or not? Right. So that was the machlokas over there, right? So over here he said the Vlad's and Mams are so much to the point of Mutar Ramzeris. Ushmul Amar Havlad Shtuki v'Yasser Ramzeris, and the other says the Vlad's Shtuki Ramzeris. So what do you see over here? So it's opposite of what we just said. According to Rav, right? You shouldn't be allowed because it's a something. You shouldn't be allowed to go ahead and marry a mamzeris. So why are we saying marry a mamzeris? It's opposite. And Shmuel, who says sveikos should be mutter to sveikos, why are you saying the blah is a shtuki and us for mamzeris? It should be opposite. Sigar says, okay, switch it around. Rav Amar Havlad Shtuki. Rav says the Vlad is a shtuki, and therefore it's a suffix, and a suffix can't mix with a suffix. Shmuel says, who wants to say like Hillel or Yuchsin, Havlad mamzer, and therefore the Vlad's a mamzer, and they go ahead and marry a mamzeris. And Tarti Lamli, so why do you need this case and our case? And why do you need both cases? Most people are and she's not married, and therefore, so most people, unless it's her relative, her karov, which would create a mamzer, the child without a mamzer. The right psulim, but over there, in the case she's in a rusa, most people are psulim by her, and therefore, really, the flash should be a mamzer. Nevertheless, it's a something we don't allow it. Even maybe the shmuel go ahead and marry a vadai mamzer because the child is vadai mamzer. We say no. Now, the other case, the reason why we said the vlad's okay is because you can go ahead and say, hey, she's betrothed. Mistamba, it belongs to her fiance. But in another case, I would say maybe both the Shmuel, we don't know. So therefore we need both cases. Or if you say, don't switch around. Well, my mamzer, what does it mean when Rav says a mamzer? To come out, lav mamzeres, lav mutar mamzeres, ella, the usher of Bas Yisrael. What he's saying is not that when he said the vlad's a mamzer, not the fact that he's such a mamzer that he can marry mamzeres. It's not a vade mamzer. Rather, it means that he's a mamzer to the point that he can't marry a regular Yisrael. Right. Not such a mom, right? Not such a mamzer. You can marry mamzeres. Not a mamzer lemahadrin, right? Right. Something.
Sort of a mom.
Yeah.
Sort of pregnant.
Yeah,
Sort of
yeah,
pregnant.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So in this case, right, because we don't know, right? Right. So therefore, we're not going to allow you to marry mamzeres, but we're going to say it's forbidden to marry a bas Yisrael. Shmuel Amar havlad shtuki the bas shtuki does bas Yisrael. The bas shtuki can't marry a bas Yisrael. So where says if that's the case, kind of the Rav. Well, Rav just said that, right? Rav says that we don't allow, right, to marry bas Yisrael, but you can't marry a mamzer either. And you're saying a shtuki, it's the same thing, same suffix. So Hainu the Ravs, Ella my shtuki, Shamashtik and Isam din kahuna. We don't allow him as a Kohen to be a Kohen. He can't be a Kohen. So Mar says Pshita, Hashtem medin Yisrael, Mashtem medin kahuna mi boy. Now we say he can't marry a bas Yisrael, and you're going to tell me, oh, he can't, eat truma as a Kohen? Of course not. No, he's a shtuki. We don't allow him to, let's say, go ahead and inherit from his from the father who's an arus after he died. So he says pshita. All right, we don't know whose father. We don't know for sure. So I said, no, like the toughest. He already took it. Nevertheless, Kamash one, you can go ahead and remove it from him. Or Riboy Sema, my shtuki. What does it mean? Shtuki beduki shebayt kinas imo ve'omeres l'kaisher nivalti. Rather, it means that we go ahead and we check. Right? In other words, we go ahead and we ask the mother, what is the nature of the father? And she says, hey, no, he was a kosher. The guy was not a mamzer. He was a kosher nivalti. That menace. So she's believed in. So we just saw this, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. So come on, who's this like? Rabbi Gamliel. So how much mocha this? This is like Rabbi Gamliel. We already saw this earlier. That's now we learned in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Aisa Muberes. She a woman was pregnant, and she was single. What is the nature of this blood? And she says, "Me, planning the Kohen who, right? He's kosher, he's fine. Don't worry about it. He's not a mamzer." She is believed, and Rabbi Shua she does not believe on that, and therefore the child is a selling mamzer. That she is believed. So why do you need to say it twice? So we need both cases. If it was over there, she was a single girl up Pnuya, and therefore the only people that would make a mamzer with her is, let's say, her relatives, father, her brothers, whatever it is. But over here, in a case when a woman is betrothed, everybody else really has an issue of Eish with her. Say, maybe I'll say she's not believed. Therefore, it's we need both cases. And Tani, we're going to buy some Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Kusi lo yisa kusis. A Kuthian should not go ahead and marry a Kusis, right? Now, my time, what's the reason? Rav Yosef, Asu keger li'achar asar daros. Because we make a Kusi should not go ahead and marry Kusis, because it's like a ger after 10 generations. What does that mean? The title in the Bryce, a ger adasar daros, muter b'mamzeres. A ger, right, who is not considered, according to the sheet, is not part of the kahal, right? Is mutter mamzeres, but only the ger goes only so long, right? If my great, right, 25 generations earlier converted, right, and I came from him, so at some point you're no longer, right, a ger, right? At some point, right, you're no longer, I don't know, Russian in Chicago, right? You're just, at some point, you're just like, you're everybody. So when it's a ger, so it says until 10 generations. Up until 10 generations, you're still labeled a ger. 10 generations in, okay, fine, you're good. So after that, you're like a Yisrael, and therefore people are not going to recognize you anymore as a convert, right? And therefore, Asr B'Mamzeres.
Well, the year can marry a mamzer. Why would they want the children to be a mamzer? They can marry Yisrael and they have part of the. Then they won't have to worry about being a ger anymore because the children are Israeli. But if they marry a mamzer, the children are mamzer.
But they would go after. I mean, there would be so we see over here. There would be even a ger with a Yisrael. They would still be a ger from the ger family.
Right.
Right. But not mamzer. So, right. 100%. Right. So begin with Chasram says, "V'yeshavim ad she shtaka sham shem of those chavim mena." right? Until there's no longer the name of the Chavim, they're not associated with one time they're being of a Chavim. So so and therefore, just like over there, so a kusi should not marry a kusis, right? Because maybe there's mamzeris in there. So on a certain point, so therefore that they shouldn't go ahead and marry mamzeris. It says Amar le'abai mi dami hasam ger yashin mamzeris chadasha over there, right? So we're talking about an old ger, and therefore he converted a long time ago, and therefore to marry a mamzeris, which is something new. In other words, it looks like a Yisrael is marrying a mamzeris. However, it's Ami Bar Yisrael, and they'll say therefore he's a Yisrael, right? Because since he was converted, many generations ago, they'll say he's a Yisrael who called Nasi mamzeris. But over here. But over here, if you're saying a kusi and a kusi, so they're both the same category. If you recognize them as a Yisrael, it's a Yisrael marrying Yisrael. If you recognize them as a mamzeris, right? We'll soon see why we would consider kusis a mamzeris, right? We'll say it's mamzeris. So Elok Yasser Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Elazar Savak Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Shmuel, who holds like Rabbi Shmuel, so like Rabbi Kiva holds like Rabbi Shmuel, who Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Kiva. We'll soon ask on that. So what do you mean? So Rabbi Elazar, so like Rabbi Shmuel, to Amar Kusim Geri Aryasin, right? They were scared to convert. They were scared of lions. Therefore, their conversion was invalid. If their conversion was invalid, they're like Obei Kochavim. So it's like an Obei Kochavim now with Yisrael, and then Rabbi Shmuel will say, "Hold like Rabbi Kiva." Something like Rabbi Kiva. Then the Vlad's a mamzer. So since Kusim are really avadim, are Ovid Kachavim, and Ovid Kachavim Baal Bas Yisrael, the Vlad's a mamzer. So therefore, the children really are mamzerim, and therefore, that's the reason why in that case. So some might be. So in that case, they would be. There would be mamzeris there. And so the Gemara questions just on the lumdus on this. So me started Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Kiva. There's Rabbi Shmuel, hold like Rabbi Kiva, as you're suggesting. But Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Shmuel, Menai Lavi Kachavim Ve'Avid Al Kohenes, Balavia Val Basrel. Where do we say that Avi Kachavim was ba on a Kohenes Lavia Yisrael? Shepaslua that he passes her. So Shinamar, as the pasuk says, Ubas Kohen Kizia Amana Ugrusha V'Zera Ema. So it says about Kohen. When she's Amana Grusha and she doesn't have kids, she can go back to her father's house to eat truma. So right. So only somebody who was married or divorced, who was with a man who she had potential to have marriage and divorce with, such a girl, if she had relations with him, could go back to her father's house and eat truma. Yasa that would exclude Avichav Evid, right? She can't marry an Avichav Evid. There is no kedushin or gerushin there. She ain't lo almas grushin, and therefore she be pasal kuna. Now the Gemara says. So if you think these so that's a several like Rabbi Kiva, if you think that Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Kiva, so hash to know the child's the vlad's a mamzer. So hash the mamzer havi mifsul b'biyasul mibai. Why do you if her child with an Avi Kachavim would be a mamzer? Why do you need a pasuk to tell me she's pasuk for truma? Of course she's pasuk for truma for having a relation with this guy. Her vlad would be a mamzer, right? You don't need another pasuk, right? So therefore, there's no way to say that Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Kiva. That the Vlad would be a mamzer with Avi Kachavim. So you can't say that. So Ella, rather, we'll say not Rabbi Eliezer holds like Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shmuel holds like Rabbi Kiva. Rather, Rabbi Elazar said like Rabbi Shmuel, Damar Kusim, Arya same, right? The Kusim, they were scared. They didn't by lions, and therefore that's the only reason why they converted. And it was not a real conversion. And he, Rabbi Elazar, said like Rabbi Kiva holds like Rabbi Kiva, Damar Avi Kachavim. Then he would hold like also like Rabbi Kiva, Avi Kachavim was Baal Basrel, the Vlad Mamzer. Mar says, can you even say that? Suggest that Rabbi Elazar would hold like Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Elazar, even though it was a separate machlekes, the case of by Tzara, now there was a co-wife to pass there. Don't really need, that's not the important part. Nevertheless, he said up there, right? The only way a mamzer is created is from an Isser Kares or an Isser Misa. Now, an Isser Lav, in other words, an Ovi Kachavim does not carry a Kares, right? An Eved does not carry with it a Kares. Therefore, the Vlad's not a mamzer. So you see clearly, Rabbi Elazar does not hold like Rabbi Kiva. Se'ela ki asa Rabbi Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba and Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Some says Amar Rabbi Abba bar Zabda Amar Rabbi Yechanina. And some says Amar Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi Amar Rabbi Yeshua Levi. And what do they say? Shalosh machlekes b'davar. There's three shitas on who these kusim are and what the nature of their conversion was. Right, many generations ago, and therefore that would tell us in terms of their status here whether kusim go ahead and marry kusims. Rabbi Shmuel Savar Kusim Gary Arya say they were scared of lions. They said, "Okay, we'll convert." In other words, their conversion was not legit. They really should remain Abikakavim. The Kohanim Shanitu, and then it says over there they were with the kusim. There were Kohanim that married into them. The Kohanim Shanitu and Bahem Kohanim Psulim Hayu. Those were Kohanim Psulim, and therefore comes after the Mamzer. As Pasuk says, right? Yeah. One, I had to actually look up that. Right. One was the time of Yoshua with the water carriers, right? And the other one was the time of the what's it called later on by who was the king we said by actually even yesterday there was a question on it. What was it? Rashi means who is the officer? Forgot. With the 10 Shvatim, I'm saying with the Shvatim. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I can look it up back in the notes. It might be in the first Rashi.
All some are basically they converted, but they're questionable to do.
Right. No. So the Nesinim, right? So Nesinim is so that one actually carries a that was similar to a mamzer. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a all right. So because there's a different category. Kohanim Levi so mutan levazazel Levi so chalim Geri Charuri mutan levazazel Geri Charuri Mamzeri Nesini Shtuki Vasufi Kolam mutan levazazel. Right. So that was the Nesinim over there, right? And let me just look at the Nesinim. That was with the water carriers. This Melech Ashur. Who's the we said yesterday? All right, I'll look at that first. Anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, so the Kusim over here that we're talking about, so they were scared of lions and they really didn't convert. And the Kohanim that are with them, it says, V'yasalahem Miktaisam Kohani. So the pasuk over there says, and they saw that they had Kohanim that were who married with them, right? So it says Kohani Bamas. So it says over there, V'amar Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yechanan. Mean hakoitzim shabam. What does it mean? It means the kites and the thorns, right? You're a thorn in my eye. The kites in shabam. Since the Kohanim, they were not fit, right, to be married into the nation, and they were mixed with them. So therefore, they passled because they were married up into them. Therefore, they passled the kus. That was one shita. So therefore, they're passel according to the shita. Rebbe Kiva Saber. What is Rebbe Kiva shita? Rebbe Kiva Saber Kusim Geri. Emma said, no, they actually converted. For Kohanim Shnita man, Kohanim Ksherim, and they were good Kohanim that married amongst the nation. As Bible says, Vayasulem. Kohani Bamas. Rabbi Yechan. What does it mean? It means Minabechirim Shabam. Those are the choicest ones. In other words, the good lineage. So if that's the case, what's the issue with Kusim? Their conversions was legit. They married the Kohanim legit. Selling Pnei Masru. Right? Because they had a wrong limud. We learn that normally a woman is married and she has no kids, right? Fully married, then you do yibum. But if she's an arusa, then the Torah doesn't require yibum for that case. However, they darsh the opposite. If she's fully married, she's putter from yibum. Only if she was engaged does she do yibum. What's the case there? My darshi says loizia eishes hames hachutza lizar. Right. So it says over there that the wife of the deceased shouldn't go to another man. I.e., she should go to one of the brothers. So how do they darshan? So chutza. It says only no, she who is sitting on the outside, i.e., she's there fully married, she's the one who should not go off to another man rather than to the brother. But this one, the one who's married, who wasn't sitting on the outside, i.e., because she was already married to the brother, fully married, and therefore living on the inside, she can go ahead and lizar. She doesn't need even mechalitza, and also Rabbi Kiva, the time Rabbi Kiva, she doesn't. Therefore, if she goes ahead and marries another man without doing even mechalitza, even though it's a lav, right? So the product of a live, according to Rabbi Kiva, is a mamzer. So therefore, since they messed up, right, all of the halachas of Yibum and Chalitza, therefore there was mamzeres that came from the kusim, and therefore since there was mamzeres that came from the kusim, so therefore there is subbing mamzeres within the kusim. All right, we'll stop here before the third shita, and Sunday, Mitzvah Hashem, 6:45. We will continue from here. Everybody have a wonderful Shabbos.